At 56, the tragedy of Will Smith is beyond heartbreaking. The man who once ruled Hollywood with laughter, confidence, and charisma now stands in a quieter space, reflective, humbled, and profoundly human. Will Smith, the name that once symbolized energy, positivity, and unstoppable drive, now carries a story written in pain, growth, and redemption. From The Fresh Prince to Men in Black, from Pursuit of Happiness to King Richard, he gave us moments that defined an era. But behind those smiles and blockbuster hits lived a man silently battling the weight of expectation. The slap seen around the world changed everything. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a mirror, forcing Will to confront years of pressure, image, and buried emotion. The tragedy isn't in that moment. It's in the pain that built up to it, the humanity behind the perfection. Now at 56, Will Smith stands at a crossroads between redemption and regret. The man who once defined charisma and confidence now wears a quieter kind of strength, one born not from applause, but from reflection. Behind that familiar smile lies the weight of lessons learned the hardest way possible. The world saw the slap, but few saw the pain behind it. The years of pressure, the cracks in a once-perfect marriage, the battle between being a global icon and simply being human. For decades, Will carried the image of the invincible superstar, the man who could fix any problem with a joke or a grin. But as he once said, "You can't protect your image and your soul at the same time." Those words cut deep now, echoing through the silence that fame leaves behind. He spends his days surrounded not by movie sets or flashing cameras, but by reflection, journaling, meditating, and rebuilding bridges with those who truly matter. His children have become his greatest teachers, reminding him that love isn't about perfection, but presence. And Jada, despite everything, remains a part of his story, not as a symbol of scandal, but as a reminder of endurance. Hollywood may have turned the page, but Will hasn't stopped writing. He's quietly working on new projects, but this time, it's not about proving anything to the world. It's about peace, about acceptance, about letting go. The tragedy of Will Smith isn't just the fall from grace. It's the reminder that even the brightest stars can feel the darkest nights. Yet, through the pain, there's hope. Because Will is still standing, still learning, still growing. His story shows us that no matter how far we fall, redemption is always within reach, if we're brave enough to face ourselves. So, if you've ever been broken, misunderstood, or judged by your worst moment, Will's journey speaks directly to you. This is more than a story about a celebrity. It's about a man rediscovering his humanity, and sometimes that's the most powerful story of all. And now, at 56, Will Smith is learning that silence can be louder than any standing ovation. The man who once filled movie theaters with laughter and energy now fills journals with gratitude and regret. There's something hauntingly beautiful about watching a man once called the Fresh Prince transform into a teacher of peace. Every scar he carries tells a story of choices made, lessons learned, and bridges burned only to be rebuilt with humility. He no longer runs from his pain. He talks to it, learns from it, and lets it shape him into something softer, wiser. Friends say he spends mornings watching the sunrise in complete silence, a practice of stillness that reminds him how fleeting fame can be. The applause fades, the headlines vanish, but the soul remains, waiting to be heard again. Will's tragedy isn't in his mistakes, but in how deeply they hurt him, how they forced him to confront a truth most of us avoid, that success doesn't heal wounds, it only hides them. The man who once saved the world in movies now saves himself one day at a time, rebuilding from the inside out. His story reminds us that being human means falling, failing, and forgiving yourself anyway. And maybe that's where true strength lies. Not in the moments that made the world cheer, but in the quiet ones where no one's watching. If you've ever been broken but kept going, if you've ever fallen but got back up, then you already understand Will Smith's story. And maybe, just maybe, it's not a tragedy at all, but a rebirth in disguise. So, before you go, honor his journey. Hit that subscribe button, share his story, and let his resilience remind you that no matter where life takes you, it's never too late to rise again. And as the curtain slowly falls on this chapter of Will Smith's life, one truth becomes clear. The world may remember the slap, but those who truly understand him will remember the man who stood back up. Fame gave him everything, yet took just as much away. But through it all, he's found something even more valuable: himself. He's no longer chasing the spotlight, he's chasing peace. The laughter, the energy, the drive, it's still there, but now it comes from a quieter place, a wiser heart. Will has learned that real strength isn't about pretending to have it all together, but about admitting when you don't. And in that honesty, he's found a new kind of power. He's mentoring young actors, reconnecting with his roots, and giving his pain a purpose. The man who once lived for applause now lives for meaning. Hollywood might move on, but the world will always remember the boy from Philly who dreamed big, fell hard, and rose again. So, as we watch him walk this road of reflection and rebirth, let's not focus on his fall, but on his climb. Because through every heartbreak, every mistake, every public humiliation, Will Smith continues to show us that grace isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. And maybe that's the greatest legacy of all. So, if you're watching this right now, take a deep breath, reflect on your own journey, and remember, even the strongest souls stumble. But what defines us is how we rise. Thank you for watching, and if you believe in redemption, healing, and second chances, honor Will's story by hitting that subscribe button, turning on notifications, and joining us as we continue to tell the stories of strength behind the spotlight. And now, as Will Smith steps into this new era of his life, you can feel the shift. The man who once sought validation from millions now seeks connection with himself. He's no longer the young actor desperate to be liked, but a grown man who finally understands that peace doesn't come from applause, it comes from acceptance. Every wrinkle, every scar, every lesson, they tell a story the cameras could never capture. There's something almost poetic about seeing him embrace solitude, humility, and forgiveness all at once. Those close to him say he's become more spiritual, more grounded. Not the Will Smith of blockbuster fame, but the Will Smith of quiet wisdom. His laughter may be softer now, but it carries more truth. His words fewer, but they weigh more. He's walking a different kind of red carpet now, one paved with growth, reflection, and grace. The tragedy we once saw in his public pain has transformed into something far greater, a testimony of resilience, a reminder that even when the world turns its back, you can still rewrite your story. Will Smith's journey is proof that no matter how public your fall is, healing is always possible when you choose to face yourself instead of running. And that's the lesson he leaves us with, not as a celebrity, but as a man learning to live with peace instead of perfection. So as you watch this, take a moment to reflect on your own life. What battles are you fighting silently? What wounds are you still hiding behind a smile? If Will's story teaches us anything, it's that brokenness can be beautiful when it leads to growth. So don't forget, subscribe, stay inspired, and remember, every ending is just the beginning of another chance to rise again. And as the sun sets on Will Smith's long and complicated journey, there's a quiet sense of peace in the air. The world may still whisper about his mistakes, but he's no longer listening. He's learned that sometimes the loudest applause comes from within, the kind that says, "You made it through." Gone are the days of chasing perfection. Now, he chases purpose. He's spending more time away from the spotlight, reconnecting with nature, meditating, and living simply. Those who've seen him recently describe a man who smiles not for the cameras, but for himself. The Will Smith we see today isn't the same man who once conquered Hollywood. He's more real, more raw, and more human than ever before. He's finally found balance between the man the world wanted him to be and the man he truly is. The tragedy that once defined him has become his greatest teacher, shaping a new kind of strength, one rooted in truth and humility. And maybe that's what makes his story so powerful. It reminds us that every one of us is still a work in progress. We all stumble, we all fall, but the beauty is in how we rise, forgive, and start again. Will Smith's legacy isn't just his movies or his fame, it's his resilience. It's his courage to stand in front of the world, flaws and all, and say, "I'm still here." So if you're watching this, remember, no matter what you've been through, no matter how many times life knocks you down, you can always rewrite your story. Because like Will, you are more than your worst moment. You are the strength that came after it. Thank you for watching. And if this story touched your heart, honor his journey by subscribing, turning on notifications, and staying with us as we continue to uncover the stories that remind us what it truly means to be human. And now, as Will Smith quietly walks into this new season of his life, there's something profoundly moving about the peace that surrounds him. The cameras no longer chase him the way they used to, yet he seems freer than ever.